Fourth normal form, professionally, I think I may have gotten to this by accident a few times. How about that? And that's where each attribute is dependent on a primary key, but they must be independent of one another. And the first thing that I'm hoping that comes to your mind is oh my gosh, that's more tables we're going to add. Yeah, that's true. And that's where denormalization is going to come into, because we may break it up so darn much that, again, it's more hops for our database to get to that particular table that we need. That's a performance issue. So in this example that we have here, what they're trying to do is have a volunteer, called an employee for some reason, that can work on different organizations, that can work for different organizations, and be assigned to different projects. So, but they can work for 2 organizations or more and have 2. So a lot of things are very complicated future. But anyway, this was a couple of ways that the author suggested at first, for the notice of before, on how it would be set up, knowing that we would need to change that later on. So you'll notice that a volunteer or employee number of 10, 1, 2, 3 is volunteering for both the Red Cross and the United Way. So by the way, there's already more data in here. What does RW stand for? I honestly didn't know at first. Seriously, I'm thick. That's another table that we need to design. We need an employee number that really matches to a name. Notice that somebody got away with this spreadsheet, as I'll call it, for a while, and now they need to expand it more, and now you know why the process of this. But anyway, so assignment number, we need to know what that assignment was. What was the project? So there's a lot of things that are vague in here that we need to start breaking up into smaller pieces, because of not just, it makes sense, number one, but number two, to get into the fourth normal form, they can't be dependent on one another in the same block. Here's the other part that made me nervous. Nulls. A lot of nulls in that. You know how much I love nulls. So that, ugh. So let's see what it should look like after some, well, development or normalization. Pretty big difference, isn't it? Now we have one for the project, which hasn't. So again, I'm highlighting the items that should have been added right off the bat. Okay? Now you're looking at a project, assignment, employee, which still bothers me, organization, and service. These are now, and actually the more important part is actually the relationship diagram. And by the way, this is done in Access, Microsoft Access, which had a really nice feature. I wish more of them would have done that. I don't think my MySQL on my PHP servers would do this. But anyway, here's how they're all linked up. Now, is this worth it? Okay, I'm not crazy about the overall organization of the tables. Like the organization table doesn't have really I don't think that's a great key. I would have added another attribute just to have key, or yeah, I don't know. I bet there's going to be some organization that has a very similar set. Red Cross is multinational, so I'm not crazy about that being a primary case. That's already something I'm not crazy about. Notice how we added new tables like project and where's project? There it is over there. Project and assignment that has some clarifications, but also notice that we have a key for them now, and they both start at 1. That was from my previous talk about doing surrogate keys. So notice that's in there, and now we makes sense to add those type of keys in there, and they might be a surrogate key. We'll have to look back up to see if they really were or not, but makes sense to do that. Now, this is a lot. I'm okay with this overall setup, but is it too much for what we need to do? I personally, you don't have to agree with this. I'm okay with this setup to some extent. Like I said, there's some holes I can poke here and there. But when we talked about our next topic, which is called denormalizing, we have to think about if this gets more and more complicated, is it worth it for a couple of reasons.